Aloha, everybody, and welcome to the Fit2Fat2Fit Experience Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Manning.
And I'm your co-host, Lynn Manning.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We have an awesome podcast with Heidi Powell today. But first, this episode is brought to you guys by none other than Quest Nutrition. Now, Quest Nutrition, everybody knows them because of their protein bars. I actually knew them back in the day when they had like 90,000 Facebook followers. Now, I think they have a half a bajillion.
Yeah, give or take a bajillion.
Give or take, or
like
a few bajillion. Anyways, they're blowing up. They're huge. Everybody knows who Quest Nutrition is. So many celebrities eat their bars. Anyways, we've fallen in love with the taste, the quality of their bars, and the convenience of having them on the go. That's the thing, is we get most of our protein from, real sources like animal products, eggs, seafood, meats, those kinds of things. But when we travel a lot for work, and when you're on the go, it's so much more convenient to just have a protein bar in your back pocket. My favorite flavor is coconut cashew. I just love anything coconut. But I do have to say chocolate mint, chocolate chip cookie dough, and cookies and cream are a close second.
Yeah, my chocolate chip cookie dough is by far my favorite. I'm team cookie dough. For me, not only are they convenient, but they actually help with my sugar cravings. They totally hit the spot. I keep them in my purse and in my car for on the go so that if I'm caught out and about, I have a great healthy snack, and I love their chips. Oh my gosh, those protein chips are so good.
Our daughters love their chips, and they're 4 and 6.
We have to hide them from them.
Exactly. They'll eat a whole bag. Good thing they don't come in like those huge Costco size bags yet, because our kids would eat those. But no, Lynn has a serious addiction to the chocolate chip cookie dough.
It's a healthy addiction.
But it is, yes, it is a healthier addiction. And, they are better for you than, say, real chocolate chip cookie dough, ice cream.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yep, you can find out more about them on their website, questnutrition.com. They have a lot of great products, including protein bars, chips, pasta, a lot of great things.
Okay, so getting to today's episode, you guys, Heidi Powell, the wife of Chris Powell from the hit TV show on ABC called Extreme Weight Loss. Now, in today's episode, we cover a lot of deep topics with her. She actually opens up about her eating disorder on a very personal, deep level, and she kind of talks about what she learned from that. She even ties in, how she teaches her kids healthy eating habits, because she started when she was a kid with these eating disorders. Now her daughter's, around that age. And so we kind of talked to her about that. Also, how she balances both a crazy busy career with her family life. And we even get into talking to her about what her biggest pet peeve is with Chris, which is hilarious. You guys are going to love it when she says what her biggest pet peeve is.
Heidi's so down to earth. You guys are going to love getting to know her a little bit better.
Exactly. So let's go talk with Heidi Powell. Okay, so today we want to welcome to our podcast Heidi Powell, the one and only. 99.9% of you guys know who she is, but I'm just going to do a quick bio so you guys, know who we're talking about. First and foremost, Heidi is a mother of 4 beautiful children, and she is the wife to Chris Powell, who's the host of Extreme Weight Loss. Heidi co-authored Chris Powell's second book, Choose More, Lose More for Life, which is a New York Times bestseller. She has had over a decade of experience of training clients. And as a coach, mother of 4, manager of their family business, which is a lot of work, and I know for all the work she puts into it. She brings a whole new perspective and level of compassion to the Powell's approach, helping others overcome many of life's challenges to create effective, long-lasting success. And when not traveling, for those of you who don't know, they live in Phoenix, Arizona. So a lot of people probably might not know that, because a lot of people are surprised that we used to live in Utah. They're like, wait, you're not in LA or New York? Same thing with you guys. They're probably surprised that you live in Arizona. But first, before we get started with the questions, Heidi, I just want to let people know that we actually know you from a couple years ago when I was on the TV show with Chris, and you and Chris are one of those people that we instantly felt connected to. And you don't meet too many people like that where you instantly feel a connection and a level of respect. And we love what you do, both you and Chris. And so I just want to thank you once again for being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And honestly, it's hard. I think you guys would agree in this world, in this business, because a lot of people do think that we're from LA or Hollywood. It's hard to find people with pure intention. So when we find 2 people like you guys that are here to do the same thing that we're doing, just here to make a positive difference in the world, and you're both parents and you guys balance life like we do, it's awesome. And I feel an instant connection. And it's you guys are people that we never want to let go of. We always want to have you in our life, and we always want to do incredible things together, truly.
Oh, we love you guys. I remember telling Drew before I met you, I was like, man, it's hard because in this industry, I feel so much disconnected from so many other people because they're not, because all they do is bodybuilding or they don't have families. And I just feel like I can't really connect with them about that balance. And after I met you, I'm like, I love her. So you're the greatest.
I remember that lunch we went to. It was at Alyssa's finale for season 3. And I remember you and I, Lynn, were actually talking about that same thing. And you started saying something and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're not alone, because I feel the same way. I truly have always like, okay, all of these incredible trainers on TV must eat perfectly. They must work out like every day. Like they don't have kids. Like I never felt like I would be one of them. But then it was so amazing to see like what kind of a reach and what kind of connection I could create with people when I actually let them in on who I really was and what my struggles are. And Lynn, like you were an inspiration to that. Like hearing you say you had a hard time too, I'm like, thank you. Like I'm not alone in that.
I'm so glad. That goes perfectly into one of my favorite things about you, which I definitely was the first thing that came up when I thought about asking you questions for the show was I wanted to talk about your Perfectly Imperfect campaign because you know what? I felt like that really set you apart from the industry norm of, the perfect body. And, I'd even see people do these horrible posts about like, don't have babies because it could ruin your body. And here you are, a huge icon in the fitness industry and embracing and showing women to embrace their bodies and embrace their imperfections. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that campaign? Like, how did it come about? What were you hoping to accomplish?
I think it all stems from the fact that I know how imperfect I am. I honestly, it's been, I guess it's been a lifelong struggle for me, or at least for the majority of my life. And I will say, I finally feel like I'm coming into my own, but to find that balance, to I guess come to peace with I'm okay with who I am, imperfections and all. And a lot of my I think we tend to shame ourselves, like we tend to body shame ourselves and others, and think if we don't have that perfect body, if we don't, if we're not on TV, if we're not this, we're not good enough. And in reality, the more we shame ourselves, truly, the less valuable we become, because we really are only what we say we are. And so I think the more we can kind of accept ourselves for who we are and tell ourselves how wonderful we are, even with our imperfections, the better off we are. And I have to say, too, a lot of this Perfectly Imperfect, the people we work with on the show, they all have these dark, really difficult pasts and these challenges. And as we started working with them, we realized none of them felt worthy of being on the show. None of them felt worthy of having a happy, healthy life. None of them just felt worthy in general in life. And the craziest thing is when we actually help them get past those dark moments, those challenges, those, I guess, imperfections, for lack of a better word, or even embrace the imperfections that they had, I swear to you, become some of the most powerful people we have ever met in our lives. And it made me realize, okay, like people that have never made mistakes in their lives, people that don't have imperfections or maybe claim that they don't have imperfections, aren't living life to their fullest. They really are missing out on so much that life has to offer by kind of holding up that facade and trying to make everyone around them feel like they're perfect. There's so much to be learned, and for ourselves and for other people, by embracing and accepting our imperfections. Not saying that we need to focus on them and be like, hey, I'm lazy, I'm accepting it. No, but I mean, a lot of imperfections we can work on and we can make them better. But when it comes to, body types, we can change the structure of our, we can change the muscularity of our bodies, and we can decrease the body fat. But for the most part, if you're pear-shaped, you're always going to have that kind of a build. And you know what? It's okay, because a pear-shaped body, when happy and healthy, is absolutely wonderful and beautiful. And a lot of moms out there with stretch marks or whatever it is, I love the moms that call them tiger stripes. And in fact, one of my really good friends is a bikini competitor as well. And she actually just got her pro card, and she does have stretch marks, and she embraces them and loves them. And to see like what she was able to do once she started to love her body was just so beautiful to me. So Perfectly Imperfect, to kind of circle back around, really just builds upon that, because I think, like I said, too often we think we need to be perfect. I felt that for so many years, which kind of contributed to an eating disorder that I had. And stepping outside of that and realizing that the imperfections really do make me exactly who I need to be has made me so much happier.
Oh man,
so
I
cool.
I love that. Going into that and talking about that, I found it so powerful, not only your Perfectly Imperfect campaign, but I found it so powerful that you were brave and honest enough to talk about your eating disorder. That's something that affects so many women all over the world. I mean, statistically, it touches everyone's life, whether it's a woman herself that has it, or even men that have eating disorders, or know of some, or even if it's just somebody that they love that suffers from it. And I know it's really personal, but I love when you open up and share about this, because I think it can really touch a lot of people's lives. I wanted to know a little bit about that for you. Like, what was the age that you started having body image issues and that you started having your eating disorder?
And it's so funny, because I was just telling Chris this the other night. Like, I actually, just to kind of backtrack, I was always, so even years after I was beyond my eating disorder, I was so ashamed of what I had been through, because I thought, you know what, like, I ruined my body. Like, there were so many things I could go through my mind. I did this, I did this, I did this. Like, I'll never be the same because of my eating disorder. And I was just so ashamed. I never wanted anyone to know. In fact, I never told Chris, you guys, after we were married, about what I had struggled with in the past, because I was that ashamed of it. And It was not until, it was season 1 working with Rachel Oliver. It was about 6 months in, and Rachel was struggling because her dad had caught her with some destructive eating behaviors that kind of had mimicked a lot of what I had done. And it wasn't until I saw how hurt she was, and I saw how alone she felt. Like, she felt like no one, like she was imperfect, like she was flawed, because she was dealing with this thing that no one else in her life, she thought, have dealt with. And so it in an effort to like make her feel better, I decided to open up to Rachel. And it was seeing the impact, seeing how much it helped Rachel get through her thing. Not only get through it, but also feel human and feel normal. That to me, I was like, okay, if I can help one person in such a huge way, I'm going to swallow my pride, get over it, and start sharing with people, the people that need it, not just go blast to the world, but when someone needs to hear, sometimes the only hope someone has is to know that someone else has been through it and they made it past it. And so much, I wish I had someone in my life during that period of time that could come to me and say, Heidi, guess what? I have been there. I know where you're at. Like, you're at the darkest of darkest time right now. And I promise you, you can get past it. Not only can you get past it, but you can become stronger. And I think that would have given me so much hope, because I did feel alone for a good 10 years. Going back to how early, gosh, as crazy as it sounds, I remember having body image issues. I was probably close to 10 when I started noticing. Yeah, I remember driving to gymnastics and noticing that the seatbelt cut my stomach in an area where it didn't cut, like I had a little fold, like a skin fold. And my friend that would drive with me every day was more petite than I was, and I noticed she didn't have it. And I would just notice my thighs were bigger than her. And I was a petite little girl, but I noticed these things. But then at the same time, I grew up in a family that was, it revolved around fitness. And so, my dad looked like Chris, but he was like 5 inches taller. And
poor Chris.
And my mom, my mom's 53, and she, I think, is in better shape than I am right now. So we always had kind of a high standard. Image was a lot in the family that I grew up in. And I'm not saying my parents did anything wrong, because they didn't. They tried their best to raise us healthy. And I remember them saying, "Okay, like, let's do no chips or candy for 1 year, and I'll pay you X number of dollars." And so we were always doing something as kids. So I knew, like, hey, in my mind, I thought, he doesn't want me to look anything other than what my mom looks like. And I think that's just kind of at an early age, it was ingrained, and they were into fitness. So they weren't just setting the example. They were like, hey, come work out with me. Just trying to have a fit family. All of those things and my stories I created around it definitely contributed to feeling like I wouldn't be lovable if I didn't look like my mom.
Yeah.
Now, like hindsight, I know that was just me creating my own story. And my dad and mom would have loved me regardless. But as a child, sometimes we don't know that. And it's definitely impacted the way that we parent. Like I will never, ever have foods that are off limits to my kids because I know what it did to me. Our house was like full of snack wells when I was little. And it was like everything fat free. And, if we're going to have candy, it was licorice because it was fat free. And it was Diet Coke, everything. So it's very different. We do everything in moderation at our house. And it's like, hey, yeah, you can have a piece of cake or a donut, but guess what? You're going to eat your chicken, your rice, and your vegetables first. And then once you eat that, go for it. And chances are the kids, when they don't feel deprived, they're not going to feel like they need to overindulge when they leave the house.
Yeah.
And same with exercise. Never force that on our kids. Instead, we lead by example. We never ask them to come outside, but 9 out of 10 times we're out in the garage, they're right there with us. Like, show us how to do that. So it's more of a lead by example than like, hey, let me tell you what you need to do different.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because I think as women, especially since I said so many women have experienced either themselves or a friend or a family member that's had an eating disorder or just even in general body image issues. I know as a mom of 2 girls, I constantly think about how can I help my girls not have these body image issues? How can I help them grow up to love themselves and to love their bodies? And it's really hard. It's a hard balance because like you said, even with your parents, it's not that they did anything wrong, but I like to hear those tips of how you're helping your kids do something different. And if you could break down, because I know so many people actually, when we told people you're going to be on the show, I know I had several women reach out to me and say the specific thing. And they said, ask her what was either the biggest or a couple of the biggest things that helped her to overcome that eating disorder or those body image issues.
Gosh, well, it's funny because I did go to therapy a handful of times, but I have to say that wasn't for me what really helped. As far as it was in phases for me, believe it or not, like as far as getting rid of the destructive behaviors, which some people think is overcoming it. It's not. It's like, I think the first step. That for me didn't happen until I was pregnant with my first child with Maddox. And so that was probably only 10 years. Maddox is 10, almost 11 now. So it was like 10 or 11 years ago because I was pregnant. Just because for me, that was the first wake up call I had. Like I remember my dad actually crying to me before, which he never cried because he was a big teddy bear, and just saying, don't ruin your body. Like the last thing I want is for you to be in the delivery room having a child and I'm going to cry now just talking about it. But I mean, I remember him just saying, I don't want you to have a heart attack in the delivery room. Like, please be healthy. And even that for me wasn't enough until when I was pregnant with a child. And I knew that everything I took in and took out of my body was going to impact this little being. And I was creating a life form. There was a spirit, like a little spirit child inside of me. That for me was enough to never think about binging and purging again. I still think in a way I wasn't eating enough at the time, for sure. But for me, I think the biggest, most destructive habit I felt like I had was the binging and purging. So those habits went away, I would say about a little over a decade ago. But as far as mentally changing, like the mental shift, as crazy as it sounds, that probably didn't happen until I met Chris. And it wasn't like, and again, he had no idea. He had no idea about an eating disorder. I just remember him talking about, we were trying to build muscle at the time. And he was like, take a leap of faith, because my eating patterns weren't healthy. I was coaching people on one hand saying, you need to eat 5 small meals a day, and then for me, myself, I wasn't eating until noon or 1 p.m. And then I'd eat my next little snack at 4 and something at 7 or 8. And that was it for the day. And I was probably getting 1,200 calories, which for someone that's active is just not enough.
Yeah.
And so I remember Chris having me take this leap of faith. And he was like, just trust me. Like, if you want your body to metabolize fat and build muscle, I want you to eat, a protein shake in the morning and 2 bananas. And then 3 hours later, I want you to have some chicken and some lentils. And then 2 hours, he went through this thing and I'm like, oh, I had a mental freak out for a minute. I'm like, oh, what is he trying to do to me? He's trying to and I remember, and he used to say, he'd be like, hey, if it doesn't work, in 2 weeks, you can go back to what worked for you before. And it took me like 3 attempts. I remember getting a weekend and feeling bloated from all the food. And then I went back to what I was doing for like 3 months, and then getting a weekend and kind of feeling, and finally by the 3rd attempt, I decided to give it 2 weeks, try eating as consistently and as healthy as I should have been eating in the first place. And it really, mentally for me, it did the trick, because it showed me that I could eat 1,800, 2,000 calories a day and be fitter and have less fat than ever before. And truly, I think when I also started placing my emphasis on how fit I was and how strong I was, the emphasis on the scale totally went away. And the scale for me has always been a trigger. It's something, when I start stepping on the scale too much, I start thinking, oh my gosh, a size 0 and a size 1 matters. And that number on the scale matters, not how much I can lift. But instead, Chris, I remember he used to say, he's like, hey, like, you want a nice butt, like, squat, like, get stronger, like, squat. Stop, like, trying to starve yourself to get a nice butt, to lose your fat. Like, trust me, when you inflate those muscles underneath the fat layer is going to look a lot thinner. And really, so I guess the things I would say is having more kids and focusing on strength being beautiful, not size being beautiful, hands down shifted my mind.
I love that answer. I've talked to a couple other women that I know have struggled with body image issues. And it's interesting because I think both of them, I know one of them for sure, but I think both of them also said the same thing, that they shifted by focusing on strength and health. And they definitely had to ditch the scale, which was always a trigger for them, and focusing on being stronger and healthier and kind of just trusting the process. And as they grew in their strength and their ability to perform certain exercises or lift more or squat more or do a pull-up, it helped them to let go of some of the insecurities around weight. I love that. You find value in something else. Like, instead of value in the scale, there's value in how many burpees I can do in 7 minutes. There's value in
how many can you do?
How many can you do, Heidi?
No,
just kidding.
Well, okay.
Okay.
So,
wait, do you really
have an answer to this?
Yeah, she does.
You do? Okay, wait, I got to hear it then. I got to hear it.
Well, honestly, you guys, right now I could probably do like 7 burpees, because not really, I could do more than that. But like, my training has changed so much since I've been focusing on bodybuilding and getting ready for the show. I've done like 1 Metcon in 8 weeks. It's really crazy. I have done 0 cardio in 8 weeks. I'm like just doing bis and tris and weird stuff like that.
Yeah. That's so funny. I kind of want to jump back really quick, Heidi, if you don't mind, Lynn, because I know Lynn has a bunch of questions for you. But I kind of want to jump back to the place and time where you were talking about on season 1, where you finally let Chris know. I can guess based off of what I know of Chris, but how did he respond, if you don't mind me asking, when you finally told him about your past?
You know, Chris, he doesn't really. Chris knows when there's a delicate matter. And I think at the time, I didn't even tell them. I had never admitted to binging and purging because there was still so much shame around that. I had just kind of said I had eating issues, is what I would call it.
Okay.
And so Chris knew. He never asked. He just listened. He would not ask, because he knew it was something for me. If I had kind of hid it from him, I hate to say the word hide, but I had kept it from him for so many years, that it's something that I'm really ashamed of. And I know, I definitely got emotional when I would talk about it. So honestly, it's been something where over the years, as someone's needed help, he's heard more and more. And I am to the point now where I'm like, I can't even believe I used to feel that way. Like, I remember Chris just feeling so depressed and in such a dark place. And like, I can't even imagine being there anymore. So now I can talk freely about it, but it definitely, it was a very slow therapeutic process, even for he and I, to become open about it.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Chris he's awesome. He's understanding. He's like the best of the best. If you guys only know.
No,
we know.
Honestly, that's what I love about Chris. And that's why I said I can guess how he reacted. And that's kind of how I guessed he would react. Because he's such a loving, caring guy. And so I can see that for sure. Kind of shifting gears here, Heidi, I want to talk to you a little bit about the pressure of being in public, because let me just kind of tell you from my perspective, and I was talking to Chris about this after I filmed with him a couple years ago. Do you ever feel pressure when you're out in public to eat perfectly, or be like, oh, that's Heidi Powell from Extreme Weight Loss. Like, why is she getting ice cream? Or do you ever worry about that? Because for me personally, I've had those situations where like Lynn has sent me to the grocery store to buy, I'm buying a shopping list.
This is where he's going to throw me under the bus. Lynn told me to get her ice cream.
Lynn told me to get her ice cream, and it's on the shopping list. It's happened before, and I used to worry, or like, or going to the movies. And I won't get any soda, but she'll get her diet Coke Zero or whatever, and I'll take a sip of hers, but I'm not holding it,
Oh, yeah.
But I've been through that. Nowadays, I'm not like that anymore, but I used to be really bad. But I was wondering if you, especially once you were on the TV show a lot, did you ever feel that pressure out in public to, oh, well, I don't want to eat a donut because then people might think, I'm not this healthy, fit person?
It's a good question. And like hearing you guys talk about your little couple issues, I can totally relate in so many ways. But I will say it's usually because Chris has such a sweet tooth. Like he loves sweets. He loves chips. Like Chris is definitely way more of a foodie than I have ever been in my life.
Okay.
So for him, like, I think from the origination of our relationship, he would send me to the store and be like, okay, go get me sour cream and cheddar Ruffles chips. Or
oh my gosh, those are so good.
Uh-huh.
And I'm totally ratting him out now because he'll still do the same thing. He's a little bit better now, but like he has more of an issue with people seeing him in public. Like he'll go like at the airport to grab chips and he'll like catch someone staring. So he'll like slowly back away and like take the banana instead. But I think
so funny.
I have a huge advantage in that I was not a part of the show at first. And I mean, I've always been behind the scenes. So the public image thing for me has been so slow and it's almost to the point where I haven't even noticed it happening. But I've always felt okay kind of being me. And because Chris and I stay so buried in our family and our home and our computer and our peeps, we really don't see a lot of what goes on around. Like every now and then we'll hear people be like, oh my gosh, did you see that comment when you posted you eating that donut? I'm like, no, because I rarely look at comments. I really do.
Yeah.
For good reason, because it just kind of tears me down. And I don't really. And I feel like also, if people know that I can truly eat what I eat, not that it's a lot of crap, but like, a little bit of crap mixed into some really good whole natural foods, then you know what? Let's give them hope that you don't have to have a deprivation diet to be fit and healthy. Like I did read some comments. Did you guys see the post where I was eating cheesecake in New York like 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago?
Love it.
Oh,
I love it.
It was the best because someone had commented below and they're like, oh my gosh, this is totally for show. She really didn't eat that. She's just making you guys think she did.
Oh my gosh, that is too funny.
Heidi is strategically placing that cheesecake in front of her.
Totally. And yeah, no, I really did eat the cheesecake. Did I eat the whole thing? No, because I couldn't. My portion was like a third of a piece of cheesecake. So I ate a third of a piece and maybe an extra bite. And that was it. So I like it. I like people knowing that, hey, guess what? You can eat a piece of cheesecake and still be fit.
Some of my most popular posts are when I post like cheat meals or like out here in Hawaii, which is where we're living now. I post these malasadas, which I love.
Basically, like delicious donuts, but
and
better.
those are some of my most popular posts. Man, I get so much more engagement and likes. But when I'm posting like, hey, I'm eating chicken and broccoli, it's like, oh yeah, well that's expected. But anyways, kind of shifting gears here, Heidi.
You're more relatable with the malasada.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I think that's why people like it, is because they see me as more relatable to what they go through. So, anyways, kind of shifting gears here, Heidi. Going into extreme weight loss, especially now that you have a more active role on the show. What do you say to the people that think you're kind of like the meaner trainer of the two? Because Chris is known as the nice guy, and here, he's not Jillian Michaels, and then here you are, punching this lady.
Oh my gosh, she's like, okay, let's backtrack. She's not sitting there abusing the contestants.
But what do you say to the people that are like, oh, Heidi's...
Seriously, like, where does this even come from?
These are questions from Facebook. What do you say to the people that call you the meaner trainer of the two? Are you the meaner one in the relationship?
Hey, if you spent a day with us in our home or with me and Chris, you would definitely see I am the firmer of the two parents. I am the I hate to say it, but I might wear the pants in the relationship. Like,
I can
it.
totally see that. I can
love
totally
it.
see that.
I think
and
we're
I
simpatico on
don't
that.
think it's bad. I think sometimes if Chris and I both were like Chris, we would get taken advantage in every single way. Like we would have nothing because Chris would give the shirt off of his back and everything else. It takes a balance. And I'm not saying I'm this like extreme bitch or anything.
Oh my
like
gosh,
that.
you're not even close.
No, but I think Lynn can totally relate to what you're saying right now. She's just nodding her head like, yes, that would happen to us.
I think it's because I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, Heidi's way nicer than I am. So, I mean, if he's thinking you're the mean one beating up people, I'm like, what is he thinking about me?
No.
And our peeps on the show do say, like they say, oh, Heidi's definitely the tougher one. So if they have to choose a trainer for a challenge, they'll choose Chris because they know, like, they can start talking to Chris about like their hip, and Chris will like start talking and will forget to train them, and the 20-minute workout will be up. They'll be like, we're done. And so for me, I'll be like, ha ha ha, this is awesome, but let's talk about it after the workout. Like for me, I definitely, they always say I have a really nice way of nodding, smiling, but still making them go. And I do care. I care so much about people that I'm going to be what I call a super friend. And when I see them doing something that they shouldn't be doing, I am going to call them out on their crap because I feel like if I didn't, I would be doing them a severe disservice. Like you can't become the best possible you with someone allowing you to get away with things over and over and over. But guess what? Like if you really don't want to transform your life, I don't need to call you out. Just let me know and I'll let you move on and do your stuff. But if you do want to transform, here's what it takes: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I'm going to become your best friend along the way too.
Yeah.
But best friends call each other out and they help each other, reach their potential.
Amen.
Yeah,
sister.
I think it's a great balance, and that's why I think people like the show, is because it's a good balance of both your personality and Chris's personality, and I love the fact that they brought you on the show.
It's way better.
Thank you.
Best season yet.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh yeah.
So this is kind of a tough question, Heidi, but what does life look like for you guys post extreme weight loss? Like I know right now you're in season 5, season 6 is coming up, probably season 7. Who knows how many seasons there's going to be? What do you guys foresee life looking like after the TV show's on, after extreme weight loss is over?
When Chris and I sit back and like dream about it, we're like, oh my gosh, it'll be so nice not to travel and to be home with the kids all the time. Because that's definitely one of the toughest parts about extreme. The way that it is, we're always in a different state. And for 3 months of the year, we're in Colorado. So to have some normalcy with our family would definitely be nice. As I tell people, we've kind of created a family around the show because we had kids after the show had already started and the format had started. And as much as we try and bring it all into one place, we just can't. It'll be nice. Our next thing in life will definitely create a show around our family. Or whatever it is, it will be created around our family first. I would love to go back, kind of iron things out with our family, make sure everyone feels secure and safe with mom and dad. And then, you know what? It's kind of like, in church, you always put the big rocks in first and the sand's going to fit, right? In the jar.
Yes.
And it's like right now, I feel like we started with the sand and we're trying to fit these big rocks, the really important ones, family in it. And we're doing it, but I don't know how much longer we can do it for. We definitely need to empty the jar, put the rocks in first, and then pour in the sand so we can fit in everything important.
Oh man, Heidi, you know what? Some of the posts that have really hit me the hardest, and I really think this resonates with women, is our generation. So many women work. So many women have careers in our generation. And I've seen you post before how hard it is, to juggle family and your career. And even sometimes, breaking down a little bit about that, about how maybe some regrets or how hard it is, or feeling at the moment maybe insecure as a mom. And since it is so common for us women, including myself, to both work and have to juggle family life, how have you been able to find a balance? Like what's helped you to do that?
As much as I like to think that I found a balance, I think I'm constantly finding balance. And I think one week I might feel like I found balance and I might feel like, oh my gosh, we can do this. This is so great. And then the next week will literally wipe me flat on my butt. And I'll be like, what in the world is going on? I feel like I'm never with my kids because even when I'm home, someone has to keep the businesses afloat. But for me, I think the way I continually create balance is by keeping that in my mind. I think if I thought there was no issue, I'd be way off balance. My kids would have no concept of who their mom is because this whole job, this lifestyle is pretty demanding on me. But because I'm constantly thinking that, I'm like, okay, Chris and I sit back and we're like, hey, Maddox needs more of your time. Like there's things going on in school. I think it's because, maybe he needs more mom time. And so Maddox and I will really setting dates with your kids, I think is one of the most important things you can do. Even right now, you guys can see me on Skype. People listening can't. I'm at home. As much as I can, I work from home. We have an office, but for me, if it's computer work and I can have Ruby on my lap, I'm going to do it because I feel like that's better than going to an office from 8 to 5 for me personally and not seeing my kids, especially considering all of the time that we travel. We also try to do, like, if we feel like Marley needs time with us, we'll take just her with us on a business trip, or Chris and Cash will fly somewhere together. So we try as much as we can to do one-on-one. And then when we're in town, I do not work after the kids come home from school. I'll have my phone with me. And if Marley's in gymnastics, and I'm sitting there watching her, I will definitely be texting away or emailing. But I try to respect when my kids are in the car with me. I try not to be on the phone with them, but it's still really hard.
Yeah, it is hard. But I love what you said. I think for me, people have asked me the same question, how do you balance work and kids and everything, all of the responsibilities, church and other things. And for me, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's always a balancing act. I think it's always progression as you go, finding what works and what doesn't. But I do agree with you. I think always having that in the forefront of my mind, like, how can I do better? How can I be better?
Yeah.
What more can I do with my kids? That's the best way to have improvement. But, it's funny because the biggest question I got, what should I ask Heidi? The biggest question I got kind of going along with that is, it's interesting because the biggest barrier to fitness for women, so the number one reason women do not become healthy and fit is because they say time. So many women feel like I don't have time because of my career, because of my husband, because of my kids. How do you make time for your health and wellness, and how do you coach your clients in order to kind of show them, look, your health is a priority, and make time for themselves?
I think you answered it in your question, because most people come to me and they say, how do you find, they use the word find, how do you find time for fitness? And my response is always, I don't find time. I will never find time. I make time for fitness. And it's true. It's like, whether it's setting your alarm clock for 30 minutes earlier or really taking advantage of nap time, you've got to do what you got to do. And especially now with like this competition that we're doing, it's like hit me harder than ever because I'm having to devote more time towards exercise in this than ever before. And it does require a lot of early mornings and late nights. Now, I understand sleep is important and you should not compromise your sleep. But at the same time, what's waking up 15 minutes earlier? It's not going to impact your sleep that much. It's really not. And I think it's when I guess when you want something bad enough, you find a way to make it happen. You create a way to make it happen. And I know as a mom personally, there is a little bit of guilt when I have a babysitter watching my kids and I'm working out. There really is, especially because of how much we work. And I'm sure moms feel the same way dropping their kids off at, the kiddie care at the gym. But the reality of it is, if we are not happy and healthy ourselves, if we're not happy, healthy mom, or happy, healthy Heidi, I can't be happy, healthy mom. And so it really, my overall sanity does impact how well I parent. And I think a lot of moms have a really hard time grasping that. And they feel like, Lynn, I bet if you were to ask, most of the women there would say that they have mommy guilt taking time for themselves.
Yes.
But it is so important. It's like when you're on an airplane, they say when the mask drops, who do you put the oxygen mask on first?
Amen. Yourself.
Yeah.
You put it on yourself first, because if you're not happy, if you're not healthy, you can't take care of the child next to you.
Yeah, that's one thing I always try and tell people is that you need to understand, if you don't make your health a priority, you're not as, you're not as good of a mom, even though you might not think that. You might think, well, I'm sacrificing myself for my kids. I'm sacrificing my time, my happiness for them. But ultimately, you're a better you when you're healthier and you're happier. You're a better mom. You're a better husband. You're a better, employee. It doesn't matter. You're a better you when you focus on your health and happiness. But that doesn't mean you need to go to the gym for 3 hours a day, and it can be just, giving yourself some time out of the day so that it's dedicated to you, making yourself a better you.
You had said like the people saying, I need to sacrifice myself. To the people on the show, my response to that, and this might be a little bit controversial, is you're just being a victim. Yep. And it's true, because people that's their reason, that's their golden ticket, why they're miserable and they're unhappy. And people will come to me and they'll say, I just can't because of this. And I'm like, well, how's it working for you? Are you happy? Are you where you want to be? Like, imagine how much happier you could be and your kids could be if you were in a place where you felt good about who you were. But it does require you get rid of that victim card, as Chris and I call it.
Yeah, I love that. It's so powerful.
I think also people, you said doesn't need to be 3 hours a day. I think a lot of people don't realize, you can get a total body burn in 4 minutes doing Tabata. Have you guys ever done Tabata?
Oh my gosh,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, just do one small thing every day. You can't get a sitter for your kids. Go outside and run with them. Go play tag. It can be fun. It doesn't have to be torture.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what Tabata is, it's 4 minutes of total exercise, 20 seconds of intense exercise, followed by 10 seconds of rest for a total of 4 minutes. That's what Tabata is. But kind of shifting gears here again, Heidi, we've kind of touched on the fitness competition that you and Chris are doing. I think one of the questions that we have and a lot of people have is why. Like, you guys are in such great shape, which, by the way, you guys look freaking amazing in those pictures. But
okay,
why?
Seriously, you and your bikini, I was like, I have woman crush.
Well,
woman
I didn't want to say that, but
woman crush
Chris
syndrome right now. I was like, man, Heidi in her bikini, I got a crush.
Oh.
I know, and here I am eating malasadas. While you guys are posing, and I'm like, oh man. But you are like, I'm just curious as to know why you guys want to do this.
I have to say, it all started at one of our season 5 finales. One of the guys, actually Josh and Kelly's episode, what got cut from the episode was them telling us that they wanted to do a physique competition. And on stage, they actually asked us if we would do it with them.
Oh,
and honestly, it's something I've been wanting to do for years now. And Chris has been like, that's ridiculous. No way. Because I know I'm not going to win a beauty pageant. I'm like a mom of 4 kids, but it would be fun to do something where I can feel beautiful and like I've accomplished something on stage. And so when we were challenged, we accepted right there. And they haven't accepted yet. They challenged us, but they kind of backed out for the time being. They're going to do it next year, they said. But when Chris and I give our word on something, we cannot back out. And I also, to us, we're like, hey, this is a testament that trainers are not always exactly where they want to be. There's always room for improvement and for growth. And we have not only, I guess it's been a wake-up call to how much we have to learn. Because we do have trainers training us. We have coaches telling us what to eat. And yeah, we have a base. We kind of said, hey, here's what we're doing. But we don't know everything. Coaches need coaches. And it's fun to put ourselves in a position where we're the ones being coached through something to reach a goal. Because usually we're the ones coaching people to reach their goals. It's kind of like, hey, experiencing it from the other side.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And that's kind of one of the reasons I've kind of grown and started to love CrossFit, which is Chris is one of the reasons, just by the way, that I started doing CrossFit. But that's one of the things I got from CrossFit was that, I would always have to coach myself in my routine. What am I going to work out today? But going to CrossFit for me fit with what I was trying to accomplish because I felt like I was being coached. It's nice just to go somewhere and be told what to do. Even as a trainer myself, I love that break and just say, hey, tell me what today's workout is and I'm going to do it. And you don't have to think about it. So I kind of understand what we're talking about there.
Speaking of Heidi saying that she wanted, experiencing the other side, that kind of goes perfect with your Fit2Fat2Fit question.
So Heidi, this is one of the things that I'm going to ask almost every single guest on the show. And don't worry too much about it. But I kind of want to bring in the Fit2Fat2Fit experience, right? Because that's what people know me as. No one knows me as Drew Manning. Everyone knows me as the Fit2Fat2Fit guy. So I know you've been pregnant 4 times, but honestly, would you ever do a Fit2Fat2Fit experiment?
No, I would not. Actually.
Dang it. I was hoping you'd accept the challenge on the podcast and you'd do it. No, I'm just kidding.
I would never Heidi, I would never let you do that. I would never let you do that.
Yeah.
No.
We've had this conversation a handful of times, and my reasoning for it isn't that I don't want my body to grow, because I do that every time I have babies.
Yes.
You know, my body grows to a certain size. I put on excess fat. I do all that. But knowing how much I know about health and fitness and how it affects my well-being and my mentality, I don't think I'd be willing to risk it, not just for me, but for everyone that would have to deal with me in the process. I already have my crazy days. Like, I don't know if you want to add what goes with that. And then in addition, you know, I figure I have 100 years on this earth if I play my cards right. And I really do know that every unhealthy decision can take away from that.
Sure.
And then every healthy decision can help add to that. I think I would just I love life so much, you guys. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I never want to die. And if I could live forever, I would.
Yes.
I would just be so scared of taking away a year or 2 years or even a month or 6 months, you know? So life's too precious.
Yeah.
I can't.
No, it's not a serious question at all. It's just something kind of funny to ask people what if they would do it.
I mean, what he really wants to know is what would you eat if you were doing it?
Okay, if you were to do it, what would you eat for 6 months?
What would I eat? Gosh, those things that you post on Instagram, the malasadas or whatever, I'd probably eat all of those. Because I am like a cronut fanatic.
Oh my gosh.
I love them. They're like my favorite thing in the whole world. And they look like an amazing churro/donut, right?
Yes, they are. Oh my gosh.
Yes, they are. They're a fried the fried ball of dough rolled in sugar, of course, and then sometimes they fill it with like chocolate or coconut or guava or mango
or cream, Bulgarian cream.
Yeah, so it is kind of like a donut, but it's a Portuguese donut, and I kind of grew up on those on Christmas mornings. My dad would make those for us since we're part Portuguese.
You know what? I'm going to wrap this up in a really fun way. We totally did not prepare Heidi for this,
okay,
so this makes it really, really fun. I told you, Heidi, I was totally going to keep you on your toes. I am not a good host. Okay.
So this is like time where I freeze and I'm like,
you're like,
I'm not.
You have 3 seconds. You have 3 seconds to answer.
This is my favorite part. This is my favorite part of the show, everybody.
Okay.
So this is how I want to end it. I'm going to ask you 4 questions. They're just random, whatever questions. You have to answer them as fast as possible and the first thing that comes to your head. And they have to be honest. Okay?
I'm not good at this, you guys.
It's okay.
We're gonna.
These are easy. These are pretty easy.
First thing that comes to your head. Okay. Favorite for.
Give me a math question. I'll answer really quick.
Okay. 1 + 1. No, just kidding. Okay. 2. Favorite dessert.
Oh, morning bun. Starbucks. Every day. Eat it every single day.
You do?
Easy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Every day. I do a protein shake and a morning bun.
Okay. Biggest pet peeve you have with Chris?
The way he chews is really loud. And his passing gas. I cannot.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That is too funny because when I first met Chris, he's just like there farting in front of everybody. And I'm like, dude, I just met you. And he's like, oh, everybody's used to it. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, that's totally so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. He's always like, I'm sorry. I'm like, you're not sorry.
You're not sorry because you keep doing it. Most embarrassing moment.
Okay, well, besides the fact that every single day when I get up on my heels, I literally almost fall on my face. If I have to pick something literally, you guys, I look like a baby deer with the things on the show. And I'm telling you, I think my most embarrassing moment is to come on stage in Colorado, August 29th. I'm convinced I'm probably going to fall in front of everybody.
No.
But from my childhood, I will say, I remember when I was like 8 years old, we were doing it was like a gymnastics dance thing at the county fair. And I started tumbled off the stage. And I swear though, you guys, I have so many embarrassing, stupid things that I'm not even embarrassed by things anymore. Ever.
That is so funny.
I totally embarrass myself all the time, and I literally embarrass people around me, and then I'll look at them like, what? Because I don't get embarrassed either.
No,
so I hear you.
It's like if I have something embarrassing happening, I'm going to share it with everybody because it's pretty funny, you know?
Yeah, me too. Okay, this is the most important question, Heidi, of the entire episode.
Last one.
Most important question. I heard you watch Game of Thrones. Who is your favorite and least favorite character?
This is going to be so disappointing because we literally started watching Game of Thrones the night I posted about it and stopped the night I posted about it.
Oh my gosh, are you
So
serious?
you know two people, or
So you're like, that one person who was the king, I didn't really like him. That one guy who was...
well, it takes a lot of time. Like, I'll be honest, it takes a lot of time to commit to like a series like that. That's why I haven't watched it. Lynn finds time or makes time.
I mean, I was
to watch
really
it.
waiting for you to be like, of course, Khaleesi, the mother of dragons, is my favorite, Lynn. I'd be like, oh my gosh, me too. And then, I thought we were gonna bond here for a second. But,
like
all right.
every now and then, Chris and I try to be like normal, and we're like, you know what? Let's like watch a TV show for once, and it happens that night, and then.
Try to be normal.
You guys are too busy.
I love it.
To
I
be
love
mainstream. I mean, between all of my crazy schedule, I don't have time to watch the entire series and all seasons of Game of Thrones. That's a total lie. I watched every single one of those. It's totally fine.
Okay. Well, thank you, Heidi. We really, really, really appreciate all your time that you dedicated to us today on the podcast, and we appreciate you being a part of it. Quickly, where can people find you online, on social media?
Yes, go to HeidiPowell.net. It's not .com, HeidiPowell.net. Social media, every one of them, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's at Real Heidi Powell. Super easy.
Yeah, we'll make sure to put her information, her website, and some links to her social media in the notes for the show, you guys. So check those
Awesome.
out.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
I'm going to
Heidi.
miss you.
You guys, too. You need to come to Arizona, or we need to go to Hawaii.
I was going to say, I feel like we should have figured out like
You guys need to
real
come out here to
good
Hawaii.
excuse
Yeah.
to make you have done the interview here. Like, we want to interview you guys, but it must be done in Hawaii.
Okay. I think that's the next one. It needs to be on a beach,
I mean, not because we want it to, but because it needs to be.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a must.
I know. As soon as you guys get a break in your schedule, you'll have to let us know.
Okay, deal.
All right. Well, we love you guys.
We love you guys too.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We hope you guys enjoy our podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Leave a review. We actually read everybody's review and we will comment back. We really appreciate your support. And go to Fit2Fat2Fit.com and 2fitathome.com to sign up for our newsletter to stay in touch with us to learn the latest and greatest of what's going on.
Yep. Thanks for listening, you guys, and tune in next time.
Aloha.